Some of the things that I have in this room are, irreplaceable in my life. For example, this album cover from years ago, Mercury Records. And there was the Joey Bishop show. And there's where I met the first guy I talk about in the book, Bing Crosby, who touched me when I was about 6, 7 years old, growing up in the Bronx. And they had a half hour on WNAW of Crosby's records and songs. And just the sound of his voice appealed to me so much as a little boy that I would meet him every night at 9:30 at night and listen to Bing Crosby sing. Here's Dean Martin. My gosh, I love the sound of his voice because he sounded so much like Crosby when he started. And he had that charisma, that personality. And then there's Joey Bishop. Now, Joey was a tough guy to work for, who wanted things to be done right, who, after a while, kind of got to rely on whatever I could offer him in terms of ad-libbing. But it was up to me to bring up that topic, and it better be a topic that he could handle. And so over the years, I got to know what he wanted, what he was best at answering. And I would go out there when he finished with a couple of jokes, and we would do it together. And it, frankly, was part of my upbringing as a talk show host, talking to him every night and interviewing him as I would my own guest on my own show. That's the way it worked out. And I learned an awful lot from him in those 3 years we were together. And Dave Letterman, of course, you can't know Dave. You're not allowed to know Dave. He's very private. And I appreciate that, but I think he's the guy. He's the go-to guy in talk television, especially late-night television. I think he's the best we got. And Joe DiMaggio. Look here. I got a picture of the outfield that when I was a kid at Yankee Stadium, these were the guys who flanked Joe DiMaggio. Tommy Henrik, and then Joe in the middle, and Charlie King Kong Keller out in left field. And how I loved that time I went up to the stadium one afternoon. And there was only one of the guys sitting in Steinbrenner's box. He had about 40 seats, one guy sitting in them, and it was Joe DiMaggio. So I went down the aisle, sat opposite him, and he said, "How'd you get up here so quick?" And I realized he knew who I was. So I jumped, grabbed the occasion, sat right down next to Joe DiMaggio, had him alone for about 20, 25 minutes. It was just wonderful. It was just great. And of course, Don Rickles, who I followed all my life. I'm not kidding. Maybe it was, it's been 50 years now. I admired him so much because he was wild in a club. I mean, he would take on the biggest celebrity or the toughest guy in the room and, and just use him as his comedic fodder. And I just never saw anything like it. And anyway, through the years, I've got to know him. We became pretty close friends. There was nobody like Don Rickles. Never will be either. Jack Paar was a guy who mentored me even though he didn't even know who I was. But I would watch Jack Paar when I was doing newscasts. And I was saying, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to be a talk show host. And I love the way Paar is doing it. He's not trained. He hasn't had a meeting. He's doing it all ad lib. And so the book is dedicated to him.